What would you say if I told you that 2 out of 3 jobs available by 2030 don't exist yet?
And that you're currently not learning the necessary skills to survive in our 21st century society.
And that we, youth, are the most vulnerable group when it comes to starting new businesses. Welcome to What Would You Say, a Y20 talk show about the most urgent issues of young people today. For those who don't know what the Y20 is, we'll explain.
The Y20 means the Youth 20.
The voice of the youth.
This year, the Y20 brings over 60 young delegates from over 23 countries and organizations together to discuss the most pressing challenges and opportunities faced by young people today. Together, they write policy recommendations that are then submitted to G20 leaders for their consideration during the G20 summit. This way, the youth shines their light on world politics. Our topic of today is entrepreneurship.
We will be discussing this topic with Y20 delegates, and that with the sole purpose of inspiring you. At the last Miss Global Forum, Ifeanyi Ugochukwu said the following.
Young people everywhere realize that the world they're living in is not the world that the educational system is preparing them for. The educational system is preparing people for a job-seeking mentality. But the young of today need to have a job-creating mentality. Not just creating jobs for yourself, but creating jobs for others. And so entrepreneurship is key. And entrepreneurship is not just about starting a business. To be successful, you have to have an entrepreneurial mindset. You have to have the entrepreneurial spirit. And that is what brings passion into what you do.
So entrepreneurship is important. Mark, please tell us, who will join us at the table talk about entrepreneurship?
First up, it's Leah, a social entrepreneur from Canada and co-founder of Can Do It, a global work-integrated learning platform for students. Her favorite movie is The Sound of Music. Next up is Luca, who is representing Italy for the Y20. He's a political and communications consultant. He's been part of founding 2 startups. And he's a disc jockey. Last but not least, we've got Jeffrey from Singapore. He's an entrepreneur who trains North Koreans on entrepreneurship at Chosun Exchange. It's amazing that he's with us today because he survived an airplane crash. Welcome.
Jeffrey, you survived an airplane crash?
I think there was the airplane caught fire. It didn't exactly crash. He had to make an emergency descent.
Well, still, the airplane got fire and you're still with us? Wow.
Yes, apparently.
Yes, that's very obvious. But what did it do for you, almost dying? Did it have an impact on your life, or was it just one of the moments in your life?
I think it changes perspective. I think you don't see it right away. Getting off the plane, my first thought was like, I need to get back to email. But I think in hindsight, it did change things. I think for me, especially about work-life balance, loved ones, treasure them a lot more these days because of that.
I can imagine everything flashing in front of your eyes. Well, welcome all Y20 members, but you're all 3 of you also entrepreneurs. Leah, you have a business in Canada, Can Do It, which is a great way of saying you have a business because you can do it. What is it about? Please tell us.
Can Do It is a platform for online projects and internships where we help students connect with top companies and access skill development, mentorship, and scholarships so they can prepare for the next stage of their career. And we're particularly focused on minority and first-generation college students who may be at a disadvantage in the college to career transition.
How did you come about it? Because you were a student, you started your own business. How did you start that?
Yeah, I started Can Do It when I was a few years after graduating, but this was based on problems that I had faced going through the recruitment process. There was a disconnect between what I was learning inside the classroom and what employers were looking for during the job interview process. So I wanted to find a way that students could communicate their skills through work samples and team projects and not just a resume screen or an interview, which tend to have different biases.
So you started your own business because you face some problems. You say, I don't want anyone else to face this, so I will help them make sure that they get better prepared for job interviews.
Yeah, so it was definitely a problem that I faced and my peers faced. And I also talked to students around the country, and I did research in South America as well, talking to students there. So I know this is a problem not just that I face, but it's a global problem. And we're excited to be a small part of the solution.
We are as well. Luca, I see you nodding. Is facing problems helpful if you want to become an entrepreneur?
I absolutely agree. I think that's one of the main ways to bring forward entrepreneurship. I mean, identifying something and pointing at it and saying this needs to change and this is something that can exist. It's not there yet. Let's bring it to the table. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to start Royal Bikes, and I started it, which is a really, really simple bike sharing in a university campus in the United Kingdom. And I saw that it was perfect to put this there. Many people were talking about it. I did my research, absolutely positive, and I put it into place. Now, it's not going to change the world, but it is an essence of philosophy which says that if you see something, just because it doesn't exist, doesn't mean you can't position it into society and make a positive impact while you do it. So it's a simple concept, but it needs to be applied across the board.
Well, Luca, let's agree on this one. Changing the world happens the moment you put your foot out the door. So people who say I'm not changing the world, always a lie, because the fact that you just breathe, right? The fact that you're here is already changing the world. So you did change the world of some people, maybe not all the people in the world, right? And you actually have a second startup as well, Polis Analysis. So you're just popping out startups like it's nothing. How come?
Well, the best thing is the team. It's not always one person. It's always a team. But yeah, the thing is that, you know, the second one was really much similar to what we were doing in university. My master, we were working on international affairs, and we were thinking that this is a huge issue that people are not informed. You either have to be super rich and have, you know, the best subscriptions to all the best newspapers, or you just have to be someone that's, you know, able to get the information. So we said, okay, let's put this information out there. We're analysts. We know how this works. Let's inform the world and tackle fake news, tackle disinformation, address making democracies a healthier system by informing everyone. So we provide this online platform for international analysis, and it's, again, a simple concept, but at the end, it can go a long way because the thing that we're addressing is real. There is a real problem there that we're addressing, so we're trying to address it.
Okay, so I hear real problems, I hear research, and I hear simple ideas. Jeffrey, do you have to be rich, privileged, and with a network to be an entrepreneur? Or can anyone become an entrepreneur?
I think, you know, we like to believe in this myth that, oh, anyone have those opportunities. And I think it's true that today more and more people have access to those opportunities. But I think at the same time, you know, I work mostly in training entrepreneurs in the developing world. And I think there you see either entrepreneurs who are entrepreneurs by necessity, because there isn't that many great jobs. And that's one way to make a living. Or you see entrepreneurs on the other end who can take very big risks, can't afford to fail, but it's largely because they come from very privileged backgrounds with a lot of capital, family wealth that allows them to take those risks. So I think you kind of see that bifurcation in most of the developing world.
And talk a little bit about what you do, because you say I teach or train entrepreneurs in different countries, also North Korea. And so for me, my mind goes, how do you go about? You're this young man in Singapore, and then you're training other entrepreneurs. What do you teach them?
Yeah, so I think it stems out this bad habit of running towards disasters instead of running away from it. And that's kind of how Chosen Exchange was born. So I founded this organization to train North Koreans on entrepreneurship. We have trained about 3,000 of them to date. And the aim was to help build the first generation of entrepreneurs and startups in the country. And through that process, also help bring about change in the economic policy there. So we've been doing it for a decade now. It's been an amazing journey. It's been very difficult, but I think doing it in that extreme environment has taught us a lot about what works for entrepreneurs in some of these frontier economic environments.
Absolutely, and I think it's very inspirational that you teach young Koreans to be entrepreneurs. Just one question: what is the first lesson you teach them?
I think what we teach them is failure, like the ability to accept failure, to take risk, especially in a system that, frankly speaking, can be very harsh on people who fail.
So you learn them to accept failure as part of being entrepreneur? I see Luca going like, yeah, I failed all the time. Or, Luca, do you agree that failing is important?
It's people who don't fail don't really contribute to anything, because failure is already a success, because you know you don't have to do that again. So every time you take a failure, you're going forward, and you have to stay strong and keep pushing. So
yeah. So the
that's
moment you're not,
true.
so the moment you're not failing enough, you can always put your plane on fire and then you escape, right? So that is also a good way of going about
Absolutely.
it. Hey, I want to show you. I want to show you a number. There's the Global Youth Index has shown that almost 70% of young people want to become entrepreneurs, want to start their own businesses, which is huge, right? 70%. You, as successful entrepreneurs, if you would tell them, and probably they're all watching right now, I mean, all millions of them, this show, what would be your tip to tell them? They all want to start their own business. Leah, if you could address them, what is the thing you would say if you wanted to be an entrepreneur? This is one of the most important tips.
Just go ahead and take the risk. This is a great time in your career to be more risk-seeking. And then along with that, find a good mentor. There are a lot of people who have started business before and can guide you through the process. And like we mentioned, like failure is a great learning tool, but you can also learn from people who have been in your shoes before and gone through some of the obstacles, like raising funding, building a product, creating a team. So learn from other people that have that expertise. And then when you are successful, don't be afraid to give back and contribute to the ecosystem going forward.
I understand. So you say failure is important, but you don't have to fail. You can also seek some guidance. Luca, one tip, keep it short. Millions of viewers really want to know how to become an entrepreneur. What would you tell them?
I tell them, put it into action. The best entrepreneurs are the ones who don't do things, because they only keep them here, okay? Those are our best entrepreneurs. We need those people to do things and put them into action, and you'll be astounded how much, the moment you put things into a box, you create a network, how much other people will contribute to it and how much it will grow by itself after your push. So that's my tip.
You make me want to become an entrepreneur, you know, when you say this. And Jeffrey, you're the most realistic of all of them. What would be your one tip be to them?
I think I lucked out. I found something I cared about, and it made me passionate enough to want to work on it. And I think for most people, it's finding that thing that, you know, despite the ups and downs, the challenges, the travails of being an entrepreneur, you kind of want to stick to it because you care enough about the issue.
I really like that. Please follow your heart. But let's now the downside, because I know we're all positive in here, which is nice. 70% of young people who are not going to the traditional form of work, but to, let's say, the gig economy, right? If you start on your own, you're part of the gig economy. And for the viewers who ask themselves, sorry, Lucas, what is the gig economy? Don't worry, we have an animation that will show you what it's all about.
The word gig usually conjures visions of a one-off musical performance. It happens once and then the band is off to find their next performance, or gig. Gig is actually a slang term, meaning a job for a specified period of time. But it's found its way into mainstream business vocabularies as more and more communities trend toward a gig economy. A gig economy is a free market system in which temporary positions are common. Freelancers, independent contractors, project-based workers, and temporary hires all fall under the title gig workers and are found across every industry. Gig employees could be writers, rideshare drivers, photographers, accountants, realtors, handymen, programmers, tutors, artists, dog walkers, really anyone who enters into formal agreements with a company to provide services without being on the company's payroll. With digitization, the workforce is increasingly mobile, so workers can select temporary jobs from around the world, and employers can find the best individuals for each job, without as much geographic constraint. The gig economy also saves businesses resources, like benefits, office space, and training, while providing employees benefits like an improved work-life balance and freedom to select jobs, or gigs, that they're interested in. While this flexibility is appealing, gig workers in turn usually trade that in for modest pay, little or no health or retirement benefits, tax complications, and out-of-pocket equipment expenses. And there's a blurred line between those who voluntarily work as contractors and those who are being taken advantage of by an employer that might classify someone as a contractor to get out of paying fair wages and benefits.
Thanks for that video, Lucas. In fact, did you know, because I didn't, but then again, I didn't even know of the concept of gig economy until recently, and I have a PhD, so go figure. That's my advice to you, delegates. Please don't pursue a PhD. Will not really serve you that well. But going back to the core question here, the statistics show that 30% of US and EU workers are currently working already in the gig economy. And then in fact, in the course of the next 10 years, that number will only be growing exponentially so. Now, to me, as a layman, that sounds quite alarming, but we're not really here for my opinion, we're here for yours. So delegates, I'm not sure if you share my worry. Leah, can we maybe start with you?
Yes, I think the gig economy has some benefits and obviously some risks. Personally, as an entrepreneur, I like the freedom to be able to set my own schedule and have the autonomy and flexibility to pursue the lifestyle that works for me. But I know on the flip side, there are a lot of people who lack social protection in the gig economy. So I would also balance that with potential needs for more rights for gig workers and to ensure fair and equitable treatment.
Yeah. Luca, I see you nodding. Or you want to add something to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Pros and cons. So yeah, the mobility aspect, the freedom is all very well. You know, you choose your own schedule, work from the Bahamas, do as you like. The truth is there are a lot of aspects that are risks in the fact that you don't have a long-term plan for your pensions or your health insurance or other aspects. So those are things you have to think about yourself in this industry. You have to make sure that you are investing in your own insurances if you're not employed, and that you are looking at the network around people that are also working in the gig economy in your specialization, and make sure that you can collaborate with them to cover each other in the industry if there are any risks in that sense. So cooperation and also long-term planning is absolutely needed for gig workers.
Okay, thank you so much. Jeffrey, anything that you would like to share?
Yeah, I think actually I'm going to tie this to a broader topic, which is about remote work. And I think with remote work, actually, we are all in some sense kind of like gig economy or contract workers, because that relationship we have to the companies have become very loose, right? You think about on-demand teams, which forms a big part of this gig economy. I think companies like Google, Facebook, almost half of their workforce are actually contractors. That's 50,000 out of 100,000 employees that Google has. And I think with remote work, we are all kind of functioning like some form of gig economy workers. And I think because of that, the companies are investing less in youth, in their workers, and we are left to figure out for ourselves what our career looks like. And I think it means that we just have to own more of our career and our direction. And as we discussed earlier on, we're becoming more like entrepreneurs.
Luca, how can we make sure that we have good policy that actually protects freelance workers?
Absolutely. No, I think this is one of the topics we're really pushing hard on in our Y20 policy communique. And one thing I'm really pushing for is, even if it doesn't seem related, is ensuring that big digital multinational companies and platforms pay their fair share of taxation, because they can't have it both ways. You cannot both not pay your tax and not have your workers have their necessary benefits. So once we have a fair system where we have more resources, where we can actually ensure that these platforms are contributing to the funding of the governments, and that these governments can then reinvest this money in social safety nets for the most vulnerable people. And I'm particularly worried right now about cultural workers and tourism sectors that have been hardly hit by this pandemic. So I'm really looking forward to presenting some policies in this direction, ensuring we have the investment to go and support these safety mechanisms, and ensure that the people who are taking most advantage of this are at least paying their fair share to the system.
Absolutely. Kimberly, do you have some remarks from the viewers?
Yes, I do. The viewers actually had quite a bit of inspiring examples. So the first example that came in is Cover AI. And Cover AI is a membership program that provides an income shield to freelancers, sort of a social benefits plan for gig workers. And the cool thing is that the benefits are portable. So if you change gigs, they come with you. Other example I wanted to share is something we know in Holland. It's called Broodfonds. It's a Dutch concept, and it translates to bread fund. And this is where independent entrepreneurs organize themselves to form a collective to provide each other with temporary sick leave if you need it. And so this is a system based on solidarity, which I thought was beautiful. And the third item I wanted to share is a platform called Fair Work. And Fair Work is an initiative in partnership with the International Labour Organization. And this website highlights best and worst practices in the platform economy. So they're working together with all types of stakeholders to set global principles for fair work. And they use these principles to actually rate platform on fairness.
That's great. So you have actually the fair platform shows which platforms are fair, which not, who's doing good, who's doing bad. How important is this, delegates, that we actually keep track of where can you have fair policies, that we share best practices so that we learn from each other, that young people can actually say, I want it like that and I don't want it like that anymore. Jeffrey.
Yeah, I think one of the important things is the role of unions in all of this. I think unions have generally been in decline around the world. But I think with this whole gig economy, I think it's a big question of whether we need to have a resurgence of unions and the effectiveness in fighting for the rights of these workers. And I think that's something that we should think a lot more. Who represents this gig economy workers?
I like that you say unions. We have to reinvent the concept of unions then to make it more freelance proof and fight for each other. Kimberly just said the word solidarity. I think this is a very important, also what you said, Luca, and Leah, I see you looking as well, the importance that we stand up for each other and not fight each other on everything, because entrepreneurship is not only for yourself, it's also for others. Do I get an amen on that one?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Dear delegates, this is all the time we have. So thank you so much for joining us. Mark will give us some music because we have to wave to each other all over the world, in Italy and in Singapore and in Canada. Thank you so much. Goodbye, everyone. Bye. If you enjoyed watching this episode and you want more, which you do want, we have 6 other episodes waiting for you.
So make sure to check out the website, tune in and stay inspired because we need young minds to change the world.
My name is Lucas.
Mine is Yusra.
And we thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.